deceive me. I see first mistakes. Throw away your love.
In the small, quaint town of Jeju, a notorious psycho, Jimin, prowls the streets, driven by an insatiable obsession. He is infatuated with a young woman named Ryan, whom he has never met, but has become fixated on through casual encounters and rumors. Unbeknownst to Ryan, Jimin is a cold, with a long trail of victims left in his wake. As she goes about her daily routine, completely unaware of the that lurks nearby, Jimin's twisted mind plots and schemes to make her his own. One evening, as Ryan walked home from work, she noticed a strange man following her. She tried to ignore him at first, but his unsettling gaze made her increasingly nervous. She quickened her pace, breaking into a jog when she was sure no one was looking. The man followed suit, easily keeping pace with her despite his larger stature. His presence was like a shadow, always there, always watching. Ryan finally managed to lose him when she ducked into an alleyway and hid behind a dumpster. Panting heavily, she leaned against the cool metal, trying to catch her breath. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there, waiting for her to emerge. With trembling hands, she pulled out her phone and dialed her boyfriend, Kai. "Hey, it's me," she said, her voice shaky. "I think I'm being followed. Can you meet me at my place as soon as possible?" "Of course, babe. I'll be there in a flash, okay?" Kai's voice was reassuring, but Ryan could hear the concern in his tone. She nodded, even though he couldn't see her, and hung up the phone. As she waited for Kai, she glanced over her shoulder nervously, half expecting to see the strange man lurking in the shadows. The alleyway was deserted, but the eerie silence only added to her unease. Time seemed to drag on endlessly, and every creak of a dumpster or rustle of trash only served to make her heart race faster. Finally, she saw the headlights of Kai's car round the corner, and a wave of relief washed over her. He pulled up beside her and hopped out of the car, his expression a mix of concern and anger. "What happened?" he demanded, coming to stand in front of her. I don't know," Ryan stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just felt like I was being watched." She hesitated, not sure if she should mention Jimin. "I think it might have been that guy from the bar the other night. You know, the one who was giving me the creeps." Kai frowned, his brow furrowing as he took in her frightened expression. "Okay, let's get you inside. We'll call the police and file a report, just in case." He took her hand gently, leading her to his car. Once they were inside, he reached over to the center console and picked up his phone, dialing the non-emergency number for the local police station. As they waited for the officer to arrive, Kai kept glancing at Bayan, trying to reassure her with his presence. "You know," he began hesitantly, "that guy at the bar, he might not be the only one who's interested in you. You're really beautiful and people can be creeps sometimes. It's not your fault." He paused, searching for the right words. "You don't have to worry about it, okay?" Wine smiled weakly, feeling a twinge of guilt for involving Kai in this mess. "Thanks, Kai. I appreciate it." But deep down, she knew that the strange man from the alleyway wasn't just some random creep. There was something about him that set him apart from the others, something that made her run cold. And despite Kai's reassurance, she couldn't help but wonder if she had somehow attracted the attention of someone far more than she could possibly imagine. As they waited for the officer to arrive, Ryan tried to shake off the uneasy feeling that the mysterious man from the alleyway would somehow find her again. Kai continued to reassure her, telling her that he would do everything in his power to make sure she was safe. When the officer finally showed up, they gave him a detailed description of the man they had seen following Bayan and the events that transpired in the alleyway. The officer thanked them for their time and assured them that they would look into it right away. As the days went by, Vine tried to put the incident behind her and focus on her life with Guy. She couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding, though as if the strange man was still out there somewhere watching her. One night, as they were walking home from a movie, she spotted him again, standing across the street from her apartment building. She grabbed Guy's arm, pointing frantically in the direction of the figure. Guy followed her gaze, a frown creasing his forehead. "It's him," Vine whispered, her voice shaking. "It's the same man." Guy glanced at the officer, who had noticed their reaction, and then back at Vine. "Don't worry. We'll get this guy. We'll make sure you're safe." But deep down, Vine knew that Jimin was not someone they could so easily shake off. He was a part of her life now, whether she liked it or not, and she had a feeling that his obsession with her was only going to grow stronger with time. Ryan began to feel a strange mix of fear and fascination with Jimin. She couldn't help but wonder what he wanted from her, why he was so obsessed with her. Despite Kai's reassurance, she found herself constantly checking over her shoulder, always on edge. One night, as they were walking home from dinner, she felt a presence behind them and turned around to see Jimin standing on a nearby rooftop, watching them intently. Her heart raced as she grabbed Kai's hand, pulling him to a stop. "There he is," she whispered, pointing up at the figure. Kai followed her gaze, his expression turning. Without a word, he pulled out his phone and dialed, requesting an officer be sent to their location. As they waited for the police to arrive, Wine felt a strange sense of unease wash over her. Despite Jimin's apparent fixation on her, she couldn't help but feel a strange connection to him. It was as if they were two sides of the same coin, locked in an unexplainable dance. She couldn't help but wonder if there was more to Jimin than just a deranged stalker. When the officer finally showed up, they described what they had seen and provided Jimin's last known location. The officer thanked them and promised to do everything in their power to apprehend him. As they walked away, Wine glanced over her shoulder one last time, catching a glimpse of Jimin disappearing into the night. She couldn't shake the feeling that their paths would cross again. And when they did, she knew that their fates would be forever entwined. As days passed, Wine found herself constantly thinking about Jimin. Despite his stalking and the fear he instilled in her, there was something undeniably alluring about him. She felt a connection to him that went beyond as if there was more to him than just an insane stalker. One night, while searching the internet for information on stalkers and their motivations, she stumbled upon a news article about a named Jimin. The details of he had committed sent a chill down her spine, but there was something familiar about the way he had described his victims. It was as if he was speaking directly to her. Horrified, she printed out the article and showed it to Kai. He read it over her shoulder, his expression growing increasingly concerned. "Are you sure this is the same guy?" he asked, trying to sound reassuring. "It's just a coincidence, right?" But Wine knew in her heart that it wasn't. He was capable of unimaginable things, and there was no going back now. She began to see glimpses of the man he could have been, if not for the darkness that consumed him. Despite she knew she was in, she couldn't help but feel drawn to him, like a moth to a flame. One night, as she was getting ready for bed, she heard a soft tapping at her window. Her heart raced as she realized it was Jimin standing outside, his face pressed against the glass. Without thinking, she unlocked the window and let him in. He stepped inside, eyes searching her face, and she felt a shiver of anticipation run down her spine. "I knew you wouldn't be able to resist me," he whispered, taking her hand in his. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his, and for a moment she forgot about the world outside. She fell in love with him, which was very crazy. As he pulled her close, she knew that their fates were irreversibly entwined, and she couldn't help but wonder if perhaps there was a way to save him, to show him that love could conquer all. Wine closed her eyes as Jimin's met hers, his hands tangling in her hair. The passion between them was palpable, and she couldn't help but feel a desperate need to be close to him. She felt his heart racing against hers, and in that moment she knew that she was not alone in her feelings. There was a part of Jimin that craved her love just as much as she craved his. As they, in perfect harmony, Wine felt a sense of connection to him that she had never experienced before. She tried to imagine a future where they could be together, where they could overcome the darkness that consumed him and find happiness together. In that moment, she believed that it was possible. Together in the quiet aftermath, Wine couldn't help but wonder how long this fleeting moment of bliss would last. She knew that Jimin was and that their relationship was built on a foundation of fear and obsession. Despite her best efforts to convince herself otherwise, she couldn't ignore the possibility that their love was doomed from the start. And as Jimin, her forehead and whispered soft words of endearment in her ear, she couldn't help but believe that maybe, just maybe, they had a chance at something real. Wine lay in bed, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and fear. She had just made the biggest decision of her life. She will left Kai and run away with Jimin. In that moment, she didn't care about the consequences. All that mattered was the intense connection she felt with Jimin. She turned to face Jimin, who was staring at her with a look of disbelief and longing. I know this might sound crazy, she began, but I want to be with you. I want us to try and make this work. Jimin's eyes flashed with relief and as he pulled her close. I've never met anyone like you, Wine, he whispered. You're my light in the darkness. I love you, Jimin, Wine whispered, her voice breaking as I don't care what the world says or what anyone else thinks. You're my word, and I'll fight for us until the end. Jimin, her softly. I love you too, Wine, he murmured, his voice with emotion. As they, Wine couldn't help but feel a sense of hope, of possibility. But she knew that the road ahead would not be easy, and they would face many challenges. Still, she took comfort in the knowledge that she was not alone, that Jimin was by her side, fighting for their love.